Michelle Scott is an intuitive leadership coach. She empowers high impact leaders to break free from outdated paradigms and ego driven patterns, unlocking their fullest potential through intuitive alignment and holistic transformation. That's a lot of big words. With over 14 years of experience, a doctorate in spiritual science, and advanced training in trauma informed somatic work, she guides leaders to transcend external pressures and lead from within, creating exponential impact with clarity, confidence, and authenticity. And we're going to talk on the show about leading yourself and leading others. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. I can't wait to have our conversation and see where it goes.
Yeah, and I can't wait to learn what some of those big words I just used. Man,
Me
we'll go.
too.
Yeah, but we'll figure it out together. We'll get
Let's do
on
that.
Google or ChatGPT and look it up. So,
Exactly.
so Michelle, you know how I always start is that Better Leadership Team Show question, which is from all of your experience with leaders and companies, what do you believe is the one most important characteristic of a great leadership team?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. And my word is willingness. And what that means to me is that team members and leaders of those teams are willing to take a look at themselves, take a look at how they're showing up, take a look at all the facets of leadership. But from my perspective and my lens, to really look towards how individuals also are showing up on that team and then how they're impacting the team dynamics, et cetera. So that's the direction. That's the answer that makes sense to me right now. So, yeah.
Excellent. It's amazing how many different answers I get to that same question. So it's great. And you may be the first one that said willingness. So that's
Mhm.
great. Now, in your introduction, I called you an intuitive leadership coach. Now, that may mean a leadership team, a leadership coach that happens to be intuitive, but that's kind of a title, intuitive leadership coach. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's almost hard to put into words, really. I guess I do more than just talk about leadership strategy metrics. I have that background and I have a lovely left brain that loves to figure all that out and help people. But I also have this amazing ability, I guess, to tune in to other people in a way that I can really get to the bottom line of what's holding them back. And that includes teams. I really can see things that maybe other people can't see because of those gifts. And I love doing that work. I love being able to maybe see a little angle or something that was hidden. And I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my experience of it.
Is that a natural talent you think you have to have that kind of intuitive way of looking at things? Or is that something, I know you've got a lot of schooling, doctorate in spiritual science, and I know, conscious leadership is a big part of what you do. Is that learned or is that a natural talent you think you have?
Well, great question. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's both. I would say I've taken the time, obviously, I have a doctorate in it, but I've taken the time to develop it. But everybody has access to it. Everybody has intuition. And it's really just about learning to pay attention to it. And I just happen to be a person who's been in the world who's really wants to really know more about that. And so that's why I dove in at the level I did to get that doctorate. But it does help me in serving others and helping them connect with their intuition. And that's actually one of the things that I love to do is help people and leaders particularly, because often they're leading and they are intuiting, but they're not always listening and hearing what that guidance is. Sometimes they'll question themselves and not trust it. But I love helping people connect with that. And then they're more clear, they're more self-confident. I mean, there's so many gifts that come from tuning into our natural knowing and our natural intuition. So yeah, it's great. It's good stuff.
Excellent. So, and I know you say, and I say this all the time. So when I saw it, something you said, I grab onto. You said you got to lead yourself before you could lead others. And I
Yes.
want to talk, in our time about leading others. But let's start with that. When you say you got to lead yourself before you lead others, unpack that for us a little bit.
Yeah. For me, I can't lead. Okay. You could argue, or somebody could probably argue with this, but I don't believe I can lead someone else if I'm not handling my own issues and my own what's going on inside of me first. Because otherwise, it's like, I don't know if I could say this really, but the blind leading the blind, or you can cut that out, I guess, if you want to. But
Why?
it's like,
That's okay. I'm not, did we just insult blind people?
I
I'm
hope
okay.
not. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm
Oh,
like,
I'm canceling you now. You're in big trouble.
oh, I'm in trouble. No.
We We could say that. We could say that.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, so it's like the blind leading the blind. You are not, to me, if I'm not tuned into myself first, I can't necessarily see or help someone else. Maybe I'm seeing something in someone else's leadership. I can't, or someone on my team or direct report. I really can't necessarily help them most effectively and in the deepest way possible and most impactful way possible if I'm not aware of that within myself and working that in myself, because otherwise it's just me trying to get somebody else to do something that they're probably seeing me doing the exact same thing. And maybe they're going, well, why are you telling me that? You're doing the same thing. So anyway, it's just always good to start from within. And then from there, more magic can happen, I guess, on the leadership team.
Yeah, I think a great example of that, and it's why I'm such a believer in this idea as well, is from my own life. You know,
Mm,
I did a TED talk a number of years ago called The Antidote to Anger, and it's about
mm,
me and my son from when my son's 30 now, but it's a story from when
mm,
he was 12. And he's got Asperger's syndrome,
mm.
which for those of you that don't know it, it's on the autism spectrum. And, there was, I was so frustrated by that situation. And I wasn't a very good dad at all back then. I didn't know how to
Sure.
handle it. And when I was frustrated, it changed the way I saw him. It
Yes.
changed the way I saw other people. I looked at him like he wasn't a kid that was struggling. He was up to no good. He was pushing my buttons on purpose. And I see that in leaders when they are struggling and frustrated or stressed or approaching burnout or overwhelmed or whatever it is, when they're that way, it's very difficult to see their teams and other members of the leadership team clearly when they're not even dealing with their own stuff clearly. So
Yeah.
that's kind of near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. I guess how I'm relating to that is one way I teach about leadership is on this concept of the ladder of leadership consciousness. And the higher up on it's like scale of, let's say, 0 to 10 or 0 to 7. But it's like the higher up on that ladder that I am, then I'm more in my creative mind. My prefrontal cortex is online. Like I'm clearer thinking. I'm more creative. I'm flow. There's more flow. And so the more people on my team actually that I can have up that ladder in their state of being up, the better that team is going to perform and the better I'm going to perform. If somebody's down the ladder blaming or judging or just name the making right wrong, and they're not taking responsibility for where they are on that ladder, if they're down the ladder and blame, shame, whatever, that is just not a productive place to be. And it's going to drag the whole team down actually. And so that's one of the big things I coach on is helping people get up that ladder, recognize they're down the ladder. That's step one, really awareness. But then helping, what are the tools that they can use to get up that ladder? And those are usually unique to the person. The things that work for you might not work for me, but I help them figure out what those are and help them get back up. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's personal responsibility. That's what I see in that.
yeah. And what did you call that? What's it called? The ladder of
Oh, the leadership ladder of consciousness.
leadership, ladder of consciousness.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's based on some work by David Hawkins, his map of consciousness, and also master coach C. Chandler, who talks about the ladder of consciousness. And I just added a leadership piece to it. But yeah, it's really powerful work and powerful information.
So, what is something that someone could do to, in addition to hiring you to figure it out,
Hmm.
is there, for someone listening now, what could they do to understand where they are on that ladder and start moving up?
Yeah, I love that. That's great. I think I said this earlier, but really self-aware, the awareness piece, that's step one. If I can't see it in myself, I can't really do anything about it. So the more I can start to pay attention to what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, or what's even going on in my body, what my body's signaling to me. Let's say if I'm feeling burnout, that also would be a lower scale thing. So that it's different ways to look at it. But starting to recognize where I'm at on the ladder. So if I'm having more negative thoughts, that's down the ladder. If I'm having less, emotions are kind of interesting because there can be enthusiasm at the top, but there can be over enthusiasm, which might not be super helpful, right? So, but it's just, I think we know, most people know what emotions are up or down the ladder. Let's see if there's anything else about that. Well, for the ladder, that's probably good for
Okay.
now, but yeah.
What gets in the way, and I imagine it's the same things that get in the way of moving up the ladder. When
Mhm.
you think about great leadership and starting with self leadership, but then more formal leadership, I know you talk about leaders, clearing away internal obstacles, ego driven patterns, outdated paradigms. Unpack that for us because they're, those are things. And when you talk about things like, emotions getting in the way
Mhm.
or, negative attitudes about things, very often as a leader, we don't believe that's getting in our way. We believe that's how things are. It's not a
Right.
negative emotion. It's not a negative emotion. Things are crappy right now. How do you think I'm supposed to feel? Like we don't look at it as an obstacle in a way. We look at it as that's what life is. So talk about those obstacles that get in the way and how do we become more aware of those obstacles and start to clear them?
Yeah, I think about it in terms of I'm not a doctor, so bear with me. Nobody who's a professional medical person, do not use this against me in any way. But I think of in terms sometimes I share about this in terms of like a blocked artery or an artery where the blood is flowing really smoothly through. And I personally want to be in flow as much as possible. And what I know is if I get stuck in an angry position, so first, let's say, actually back up for just a second. Emotions are not bad. Actually, even negative thinking, none of this is bad. It's all part of the human experience. It's just that if I want to have the best life, the smoothest life, the most flow, the best experience, the most fun, this is my part, my interpretation of my part. I love to have more fun. I don't want to be stuck in anger or, I want to move forward. Then I want to be up the ladder. I want to not have these obstacles, these more negative parts of my experience around any longer than I need to. But I'm not also not denying them. I'm not repressing them. I'm experiencing them. But also I'm wanting to reduce the downtime and get moving forward. So as quickly, that's just how I want to live my life. So it is a choice. But what I will say is when I'm down the ladder, let's say I'm in anger, let's say I'm in a team meeting and I just go off on somebody, that there's collateral damage that happens in that. There's the impact on the other person because that probably didn't lift them up the ladder. That probably sent them down the ladder. There's the impact on team overall and what the team's trying to accomplish. Okay, now we have two people further down the ladder versus if we have everybody up the ladder, the flow will be incredible. Knocking people down the ladder is not going to help. Plus, there's probably repair, energy, expenditure. I mean, the impact is not really perhaps perfectly measurable, but what I know is that I'm going to get way more done. I'm not going to have as many plaques and obstacles in my artery. It's going to be clear and clean and moving forward. I hope that makes sense, but that's I guess where I'm headed with it right now.
Let's make this real with an example. So let's say I am in a meeting. I am particularly frustrated with a member of the team, and it's hard for me to see that clearly. I'm letting that anger and that frustration impact me. And again, I don't look at that's not my problem. It's this other person that's pissing me off.
Right.
But I'm a leader in a meeting, and I'm frustrated, and it's impacting my ability to hear the other person or the other people in the
Absolutely.
room. It's impacting how I'm responding. So it's having this negative impact. But what could someone do to deal with that when they believe they feel this way because of this other person,
Right.
but it's still certainly blocking them? Like, how should we think about that? How do we break out of that as a leader?
Oh gosh, that to me, what you're bringing up is I call it like an eighth degree black belt ninja move to be that self aware. And that's also my invitation to folks who are listening to this is to start to become that self aware. But why it's I call it an eighth degree black belt ninja move. It's because our egos are usually so bought into that they're trying to protect themselves. Like my ego is trying to protect myself. So it's hard sometimes for some egos, some people to see that really it's up to me to make the change. It's up to me to look at why I'm so angry. It's up to me to take responsibility for my inner reaction to what's happening. And then I can come in a clear way. But it's about me seeing that kind of more negative part of myself. That's the ninja move. Actually being willing to see this more challenging part of myself that, oh, I have this angry part that impacts other people more negatively. That's not an easy thing always for some people to get. And so the answer, I guess, to your question is if somebody were to hear this, maybe that's the beginning of the conversation for that person. Is just, again, it's back to awareness. And then once they become, someone's like, okay, I'm willing to look at this, then it's about maybe seeking help in some way. If it depends on how much anger there is. I mean, there could be some work that needs to be done to help really get to the root cause of that. But yeah,
How do
give
you
it
deal
back
with
to
it
you.
if you've got, if I'm your client and
Hmm.
you're coaching me and
Yeah.
I am just incredibly frustrated by this member of my team,
Yeah.
and all I can talk about is, what a jerk they are and how they're throwing a wrench in the works. And like, how is there something you do as a coach to get me to somehow shift? Because that's certainly when you talk about, you know, internal obstacles and ego-driven patterns and outdated paradigms. And I mean, that's probably right smack bullseye in all, or at least a couple of those. How, if you're coaching me, how would you get me through that?
Yeah. It depends on the level of what I want to say. This is not a word. Bought inness.
There you go. It's a
What
new word.
It's a brand new word right now, everybody. Add it to the dictionary. Bought-inness of that person in their story. So usually that's a story that they're telling, like it's all about that person. It's all about that person externally. But so how I coach around that is helping that person over time, depends on how long they need to stay in their story. So that's kind of step one. That's why I talk about how much bought-inness there is into the story of it and how much they want to hold on to that other person's wrong or what have you. So there's a process of helping them see that maybe there's another way to look at it. Maybe they do have some kind of responsibility for their inner reaction. So I often teach about what we can control, what we can't control. And the only thing I can really control is my inner reaction to what's happening externally. Often I have no influence or control over what's happening externally, but I might have a reaction to it. And the reaction isn't bad. It's just that, do I want to stay in it, right? Yes or no. If I want to stay in it, fine, go stay in it. But if I actually want to not have that reaction anymore, there has to be a point where I decide, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. And I do want to do something different. I want to have a different experience. And so I help people see whether or not they want to stay in that or not. What's the payoff for staying?
Is this serving you?
Is this serving you? Is it serving others? How is this working? How is it helping you?
Yeah.
Is it really supporting you? And if it is, if they think it is, then okay, cool. Go. And maybe they need to vent some more. So it's a layered process, really. So it's like once they decide, though, that they're like, okay, I can start to see what you're saying. I can see my reaction is really actually, well, oh, I love this. This is from my school. I went to also have a master's in spiritual psychology from the University of Santa Monica. And they always said it like this is if something disturbs my peace, it's a clue for me that there's something inside being triggered. And usually it's a judgment about something else or someone else that's I'm saying they're wrong or bad. So often once someone's ready to let go of the story, they're open to seeing what else is possible. Then I might have them identify where they're judging that situation, and then we'll help them release the judgments because really those judgments are a big piece of I'll call the problem as far as why that anger continues to linger. It's because they're holding a judgment that shouldn't be the way it is. It's like they're fighting with reality. The reality is that is the way it is. And really what the secret is, here's the secret sauce. The secret is that their anger isn't actually coming from the thing they think is wrong out there. It's coming from that they think it should be different than it actually is. And that pressure of thinking that should be different than it is and they have zero control over it, they can't even influence that at all. That pressure is what the problem actually is inside. It's where usually the anger or the whatever's going on was driving that reaction. So we can get to that judgment, help them slow down, back off, open up, see the judgment, be like, okay, fine. It sometimes comes out that way. Fine. Okay, I'll see it. And then we do that self-forgiveness. Boom, they're free. And then it's, I also talk about conscious leadership, but embodied leadership. Once I let go of that judgment, I'm embodying it at that point. I'm no longer having to do sometimes not, I don't even have to adjust my mental state. Once I let go of that judgment, I embody it. I no longer have the issue in many cases. Sometimes I have to do layers to actually let it go, but it can be totally let go of. And that's exciting from my perspective.
What it reminds me of, I'm actually reading a book, and it's not a new book, but The Art of Possibility. by Benjamin Zander, who's a conductor, and it's a wonderful book. And he has this concept, and what you just said reminded me of it. He calls it being the board. So what he means by being the board is if you think of like a chessboard, or a game board, let's say it's chess. It's like you could believe that in life you are, you're the pawn or the bishop or the knight. You're one of the pieces, and there's only certain things you can do. You could also believe, you're on one side of the board. You're black or you're white on the board. But he says you are the board.
You're the board.
And everything that happens in your life is you and your responsibility. It doesn't mean he's not saying it's your to blame. If something bad happens to you, if you're at a stoplight and a drunk driver hits you from behind, you're not to blame for that. But if you believe you're the board, like, okay, how did this situation happen? And what part did I play? Like, I know if I drive, there's a chance something like this might happen. And what I am in control of is how I react to it. So I love that idea of being the board. And it's, it's taking responsibility for everything in your life, which is very different than saying you're to blame for everything in your life.
Very
I love
different.
that concept.
I appreciate you making sure you are distinguishing or making that distinction between I'm responsible and I'm to be blamed for it, because that also is a big part of when I'm introducing this idea of forgiveness and that I'm judging it. Sometimes people will go back to blame or making themselves wrong in some way. And that is not what we're saying, because then we're judging ourselves on top of the other judgment and we're just adding more judgment. And that's not the goal. The goal is to let go of the againstness or the shoulds or the judgment that's causing the problem inside of me, my reactions. So yeah, it's fun stuff. Oh, and I'd like to add just one more piece to this that I often teach on, and it's a concept called the mirror. And this is another 8th degree black belt move. It's like being able to see what I'm seeing out there is actually, if I spot it, I got it. So if I'm pointing out there and blaming or shaming or looking at somebody else's behavior and making them wrong, often if I could do the 8th degree black belt or more move and turn it back and just do an inquiry without blame towards myself, but just as a curiosity, like, oh, where is that playing out in me? That's a tool, actually. Where is that playing out in me? And that's a way I can be like, oh, okay, if I'm open to look at that, that is a very deep healing tool. If I'm willing to look inside and be like, where am I behaving that way to either others or myself, by the way? I could be doing it to myself. Yeah, it's another level of self-awareness, a really deep one.
So I'm gonna dig into that, and I forgot what it was. I've done some NLP training, neuro-linguistic programming training in my life, and it's the same concept. And it's killing me that I can't remember what the phrase is they use in NLP for it, and it's not just an NLP phrase, but it's basically mirroring. It's basically like, problem you see out there is really a reflection of you.
Right.
And so I always struggled with that. Like I felt like I got it, and then something would happen. I'm like, no, I don't understand that anymore. So I'll give you an example for my life. You're going to coach me right now. Is one of the real pet peeves I have, whether it's family members or friends or clients, is people that take 10 minutes to say something that should take 45 seconds. Okay. I have my wife's uncle. So my wife's uncle will, let's say the real story is it didn't work, so I called customer service and returned it.
Okay.
That's the story.
Got it.
The way he will tell it is, so I called customer service and it rang and hello, how are you? And I'm like, oh my God, shoot me before the story's over. So now I think that would bother everybody, but I think I have a particular pet peeve for, okay, get on with it and get to the point. So how is that? Does that mean somewhere I talk too much? And we're like, what does that mean when you talk about mirroring or that being a reflection of me? Does it mean I have that problem, or are we saying something else?
Let's look at a little. Is it okay if we do look at that for a moment?
Yeah. Do I need to lie down on the couch?
I don't know.
We're talking about
I don't know. Nah, you should be okay. I think so. Well, why is that wrong that he spends that extra time telling that story? What are you making that mean about him?
For me, it's like, I've got things to do. You're wasting my time. Just get to it. I don't need to hear the long drawn out story.
Right. Okay. Got it. All right. So what are you making it mean if somebody wastes your time What are you making that mean about that person or yourself?
I think if someone's wasting my time doing that, part of it is I don't see that. I think they're being rude. I think they're not. I say that, the way I think of it is they're not self aware enough to know that they
Yeah.
are monopolizing the conversation and wasting time, like get to the point. So I look at it as, they're not self aware and they're being rude.
Okay. Love it. So how do you know that they're being rude and that they're not self-aware? How are you gauging that?
I really don't know. It's a judgment I'm making
Yeah,
based on how they're
that's right.
making me feel, I guess.
That's right. And that's where we're headed, right? So that's step one is where is it coming from? It's coming from your thoughts or a judgment or something about that. Because somebody else is like I might have a different scale of patience on it than you did, but which one of us is not right, but which one of us is accurate in our thinking? I don't know.
It's
So,
me. I'm the one that's
right?
accurate.
Yeah, of course, right?
Got to be me.
Yeah. But if as soon as you can start to see, like if I can help someone start to see that there's another possibility, then that can kind of open, I don't know what's happening inside of you right now, but that could start to open someone up to like, oh, okay, maybe I'm full of BS or something, on my side of things. I'm just curious what did happen for you.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I
Mhm.
like the way the right questions turn it around into, it is not that it's a mirror that I have that same problem that person has, but it is about me. It's like, what
Yes,
meaning am I putting behind it? And I love that. And it's funny how it's tough to coach yourself, right? It's sometimes it's hard
absolutely.
to, had a client say to me, it's hard to see the picture it's hard to see the big picture when you're in the picture.
Yes.
And, I have conversations with clients all the time where they inject certain meaning into a situation
Hmm.
or into the what a person says or the way they act. And I'll ask them the simple question, okay, what else could it mean?
That's right.
And they
That's right.
come up with other alternatives. And part of it is the other alternatives may be helpful, but just the fact that there are other alternatives, it's helpful. And
That,
that's
yeah.
kind of what we're doing here. It's the same
Yeah.
thing.
And so this is one piece, and then I'm taking you through a little process of what I kind of talked about with what I would do with a client who has that story, right? So I would probably have you do a self-forgiveness if you were open to it. Like I forgive myself for judging people who seem to be wasting my time as rude.
I
Because
like
the
that.
truth
Do you need me to
because the
say that
truth
out
is,
loud
yeah,
to,
you have to be the one to say it if you want to. Your
yeah,
choice.
I forgive myself for judging other people as being rude when I really don't know what's going on there.
Right. That's it. That's the truth is I don't really know why they need to tell that story. Who knows what's behind that? Maybe they've never been really listened to before and they need someone to really hear what they're saying. I mean, and who knows?
There you go. Now after this, I have to call Uncle Richie and have a long
That's
conversation
right.
with him.
And then healing can occur. Now I want to call Uncle Richie. I mean, that is kind of what can happen. Actually, things can free up. And it's the same with a leadership team. Like you want to throw this into a leadership team. If I'm a leader and I have a judgment about someone on my team as a complete jerk, and I can hold on to the story, absolutely. If I want to hold on, go for it. Hang on to it. It's just that if you are a person's ready to have a different experience, I would, that person's a jerk. I forgive myself for judging that person as a jerk because the truth is, I don't know what's going on with their home life. The truth is, I have no idea why they're behaving that way. Who knows what happened to them earlier today? I mean, that's the general idea here. And then now I want to come back. Just do we have a little more time to
Yeah,
finish
yeah,
up the mirror piece? Okay,
yeah.
cool. So this
Hold
is
on, because by the way, this is not about my audience. I do this show for people to fix me, and as long as it fixes me, I'm good.
yeah, and yes. So there's that first step, right? The step out of the story, kind of let go of the story, create a little freedom inside, do that self forgiveness to kind of clean that up. And then we could maybe start to see the mirror because that mirror is hard to see for some people. I said the forgiveness, I think, was the eighth degree black belt move, but really it's looking in the mirror. Okay, now, so now, Mike, looking in the mirror, where might you be? Might be different than what you described, like somebody oversharing or whatever. But where are you? Maybe you potentially, you don't have to fully own it, but maybe being rude, either to yourself or someone else in your life.
Yeah, I think for me, it's almost the opposite of like not I don't think I could probably be long-winded from time to time, but I don't think that's a big issue for me. but I'm impatient. And
Okay.
it's one of the reasons why that is such a pet peeve
There
for
you go.
me is I am, high D on the disc scale and always damn proud of it. Like, we're going to get down to business. Let's do it. But I could be impatient. I find myself really having to stop myself from
Mm-hmm.
interrupting other people, which is
There you go.
incredibly rude, but I know I do it all the time.
Oh,
Hey, you just interrupted me. But
yes.
yeah,
Okay, so that's how you look in the mirror. It's not going to be exactly perfectly, it could be exactly the same thing. It could be where I'm actually oversharing and telling the annoying people. But often it's something a little different, but it's still rude. It's still something that's still
yeah,
could be called the rude, someone else is calling you rude because you do that behind your back or what. But that's how we use the mirror to look at ourselves. And so what just happened as you looked at it that way inside of you? Was that helpful?
yeah. It's helpful because it it's basically, not that I'm doing the same thing as these other people
Mhm.
or the uncle I'm talking about,
Yeah.
but I have the same problem of being rude just in a different way. And it
Yes.
makes me more understanding. It's like, yeah, it's coming out in me in a different way, but I'm no better than they are.
Right. Thank you. That's it. That's the bottom line. I'm no
Yeah.
better. I'm doing it.
And what this reminds me of too, and it's funny, like these are things I coach on, but it's so hard to
Hmm.
see it myself, is my whole TED talk that I mentioned earlier about my son is all about something, that I call in the TED talk the law of positive intent. The law of positive intent says everyone's just trying to do the best they can
Yes.
with the resources they have. And
Right.
and by the way, the reason I did the TED talk and the reason why I coach on this and I talk about it, it's because I know I struggle with that. I
Hmm.
very quickly look at other people and judge and say, oh, they're just trying to throw a wrench in. They're being a pain in the neck on purpose. But when I think about it, in all my many years, I've never known anyone who woke up in the morning and said, what could I screw up today?
Right.
Like, no one's truly up to no good, but we
No.
put that on people, and I put
Yeah.
that on people. So thinking everybody's just trying to do the best they can with the resources they have
Hmm.
makes you think, well, what do I know that they don't know? Or what do they know that I don't know? What
Yes.
resources do they have that I may not have? And all this kind of comes together into one big, pretty important idea about how we think about ourselves and others. So
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
great.
and I did think of what I popped out of my head there is that this is a normal thing that egos do is the mirror thing. It's also about projecting outward. It might be that your ego doesn't want to own that you're rude because that's not a nice thing. I don't want to see myself as not nice and kind and all the things. And so then what egos naturally just normally this is normal, people do this, but that's why I like people to become self-aware because then we can catch on to what's happening in our egos and create different experiences and hopefully better outcomes in different ways. But if I'm seeing that out there, that's why I spotted, I got it. I can look back in because often our egos are trying to project it out. So I don't have to feel bad that I'm rude. And it's usually a protective mechanism actually. So we can be kind and gentle with ourselves, even if we are doing that projection or even if we are rude. But if we can start to recognize that, that is the key. And that's why I teach self-awareness as a base tool, even in leadership. For leaders, for teams, like self-awareness to me is the root cause and it helps everything move along better if we're all taking responsibility and seeing the mirror. Holy cow. Can you imagine if everybody on a team was looking in that mirror and acknowledging that, like you said, like everybody is doing the best they can? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I hear you talking about as well.
Love it. And I've heard you, maybe it was when the first time we talked and met each
Hmm.
other. And by the way, Michelle and I met at a speaking event we were together at. And you mentioned this concept of label jail.
Yes.
And I don't
Oh,
know if that relates at all to what we're talking about or if it's a different idea, but dig into what label jail is.
yeah. Label jail is so much fun. And we started to get creative with it, like get out of jail free cards and things like that too. That's fun. Yeah. Label jail is when we put ourselves, it could even be, we're putting ourselves perhaps too, but it's putting ourselves or others in a box and not letting them get out of the box. And what that does is stops growth. And where I have seen it show up with the teams and the folks I work with in leadership is if I have somebody who, let's say they make a mistake And it might be a big mistake, small mistake, or whatever. It depends on who they're making the mistake with, because that person might be a person who really judges hard if you make a small mistake, depending on what's going on in their consciousness, right? But so you could get put in jail for different levels of offenses. But let's say I made a mistake and somebody put me in label jail, I could get fired for that, because if they had never let me out of the box so I can grow and become a better person and correct it or make amends, however that would be, they're not going to even give me a chance to clean it up. And I might be amazing at what I do, but because they are holding me in label jail, they're going to miss out on the opportunity to really experience my gifts, because they're holding on to this judgment based on a past experience that who knows what really happened. Did somebody actually inquire into what was happening? Maybe my mother just died and this thing happened. Maybe I have neurodivergent ways of thinking and it's harder for me to do certain things. Or, I mean, it could be any number of things. So
I love that. And what it reminds me of is I used to do this all the time. One of the things I do with my clients is I help them assess the performance of their teams, of their direct reports. And I used to label people A player, B player, C player, and toxic C player. And I stopped doing those particular labels, because people were talking about, like, if you labeled somebody a B player, they would talk about that person as if that's who they were. As if 35 years ago, the doctor came out and said, Mr. Goldman, I'm so sorry. Your wife has given birth to an 8-pound, 2-ounce B player. It's like, no, that they may be performing at a certain level right now and they need some work. But those labels of A player, B player, C player, that's putting people in label jail, and it becomes really harmful. I love that. I love that. So, Michelle, as we start to wrap up, talk a little bit about some of the different things you do with clients. How do you help clients? Is it all one-on-one? Is it in groups? Is it with teams? How do you work with clients?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. I love one-on-one coaching. That is the largest part of my coaching practice. I will help out and do teams if I have a client that needs some help with their team, because the team dynamics are impacting my client, so I want to clean up all the pieces of the puzzle. So I'll come in and help smooth that team out, I guess is a way to say, like, help everybody get into a better situation, from individuals to the leader themselves. But yeah, and mostly I do one-on-one, and I just love what I do. So if I can be of service, I'm going to do that.
I love it. So if people are interested in talking to you about that, where should they go to find out more?
Yeah, I was originally going to give my website, but actually I think I would just prefer to, which I'll need to get to, is my scheduling link, and just put that right in the show notes so that it saves a step. If they would like to have a conversation, that's what I like to do with people, and there's no pressure or obligations at all. It's just a conversation to get to know you and hear about what you have going on in your life, what's working, what isn't working. And maybe we can even break through a little bit on that short call and just see if there's a way I could support you. So that's really the next step. And we can maybe put something in the show notes. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll do that. Give us the name of the website anyway, but then we'll put that in the show notes.
Okay, so my website is www.michellescottcoaching.com. And there is a book, a free discovery call on that website too. Just trying to make it easy for folks. So
beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for starting to fix my rudeness. I'm sure I still have some work to do. We'll have to do this 5 or 6 more times, and I'll get over it, and I'll be able to talk to Uncle Richie again without getting all angry at him.
See, and you have embodied it, so that's great. Perfect.
There you go. So it's not all about me, but it's partially about me. If you want a great company, I always say you need a great leadership team. Michelle, thanks for helping us get there today.
You're so welcome. I had a great time with you today. I appreciate you. Thanks.
Me too. Thanks.
Yeah.